social media, of course, has had huge impacts on the US election. The platform taking a different approach to shutting fake news and trying to stop these foreign bots as well. Live now to social media expert Dr. Karen Sutherland. How are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Yes, very, very well. Facebook says it has spent billions of dollars trying to stop what some in the intelligence community claimed occurred 4 years ago, where Russian hackers were able to really push, or they weren't really hackers, were they? They were people, foreign agents, pushing Donald Trump to be the winner of the election. We've learned so much, so many allegations. What can we expect different this time around?
Well, I think the rules around, I mean, what the hackers, apparently, the hackers did, they just used the functionality of Facebook, particularly their advertising functionality to target and to retarget people with particular messages. They were able to really hone in and give people the information that they wanted to hear, and sort of persuade them in that way. So now Facebook has come in with there are really strong rules around what you can advertise and how you can advertise. You need to declare if it is a political ad. And I remember we spoke about this a few weeks ago. They were actually not allowing any new political ads around this particular time. But if you'd actually scheduled them a few weeks ago for this time, they were still okay. so, so I think, as long as people
There you
planned
go.
ahead, they
Yeah,
could still
wow.
do
That is so
that.
fantastic to know. I think one thing, though, that we have on our side is better knowledge as consumers. Whether you were living under a rock, you must have heard over the past 4 years about the Russian interference in the US election campaign. So people will be looking a lot tougher, won't they? Or you would certainly hope.
Oh, I hope so. And it's this idea of social media literacy, and we really need to push it and educate around that. And it's the ability, we're trying to encourage people to stop sharing things without investigating whether they are actually true. And by doing that, looking at where the news source has come from, who wrote it, what are their credentials, and then going to websites like factcheck.org or Snopes or AP Fact Check, just to check the validity of what these claims are being, the claims being made in these articles of fake news, supposedly.
So it's a pretty tough job, though, you'd think, for Facebook and for Twitter as well, because they can be described as being political. And we've certainly seen that, haven't we? Where Jack Dorsey, the head of Twitter, was hauled just a few weeks ago in front of US Senate Republicans who were asking him whether or not he had been elected himself, what right he had, because we know that Twitter and Facebook have both had to censor, sometimes suspend accounts. That even of the president of the United States has been censored by them saying that questioning the accuracy of his tweets when it comes to coronavirus.
Yeah, that's right. And so the platforms have been criticized to say, why people should be able to say whatever they want. But really, I mean, that people sign up to those platforms and they have ultimate rule over what is shown. So I think this debate is going to go on and on. How they're getting better at checking things that aren't, blatantly untrue, but still there is so many more users than there are people checking and the technology to really be able to find that stuff. So I think they are on the back foot.
It's interesting to see the idea of these Russian foreign agents, and we're hearing Chinese as well, because the rest of the world has so much at stake, right? Obviously, 4 years ago, they probably didn't want Hillary Clinton, as we've now learned. And Donald Trump did seem to be the more friendly candidate when it came to foreign leaders like your Vladimir Putin's or your Xi Jinping. But they've also learned the hard way that Donald Trump isn't necessarily the person that you take by his word. And so, therefore, as well as all the noise that goes with it as well, do you think it's less likely that we will see interference inherently in this election campaign?
Maybe not in the same way because of just the advertising restrictions, because they really used, I mean, that was really the way that they got through, because they were able to really target particular groups of people. But I think that they will keep trying to sort of get around that, absolutely. So just, I guess, by sharing misinformation, and as we've also spoken about in relation to coronavirus, and COVID-19, that the spread of misinformation often comes, like Donald Trump was named as the biggest super spreader of misinformation around COVID-19. So I guess trying to get into the ear of people with a large following and getting them to share information may be another way that they'll get around that.
And I suppose it's about trying to find credible sources, isn't it? And making sure that they're even credible websites. The one thing I just can't believe that Facebook has allowed is I've seen Australian television hosts Eddie Maguire, Carl Stefanovic, Michael Usher at Channel 7 on my Facebook as an ad promoting something that they're not promoting, but it's being used as if it's news, breaking news in some senses, and it's their images, and it's not something that they're actually promoting or getting behind. It's unbelievable that
Yeah.
Facebook allows these things to happen.
Absolutely. And I mean, it used to be a lot worse. Like I'm seeing less and less of that now, but it is still happening. And I cannot understand how these things are still getting through because you have to, your ad has to be approved before it's run on Facebook. So it's very interesting how that's happening. And the only thing we can do is just report. Like, I mean, Facebook has limited technology to do that, but I think it's up to us in our sort of civic duty as well when we see stuff that is clearly untrue to report it, and then that will notify Facebook as well. So yes, we will be doing Facebook's job, but I think it's better. I think because we all use the platform, we all have a part to play in stopping that spread of misinformation.
Yeah, very much so. All right, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. See you next week.